What's going on, everybody? We are back. We have episode number 49 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight, we're going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 26. As usual, brought to you by Bet Online for a 50% bonus up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Use the promo code CLUBSUB. And tonight, we got Quinn coming back to the pod. Find him on Twitter, at Orthodox1993. It's going to be exciting. Got the blonde hair and all from an unfortunate bet with Nina Ansaroff that I was also on. And then again, making another return to the pod, we got Andrew at MMA Knockout Bets. And then, as usual, you got me, John Slurgarian at MMA Fox. I think C is going to be with us in a bit. Luke is overwhelmed at work, so he's not going to be on. And Lags got his second COVID vaccine tonight, so he's feeling sick. He's not going to be on either. But yeah, we're going to get right into it. Before that, I'm just going to say, obviously, last week was a bit of a unmitigated disaster. Jury performed better than I expected, but you know what? Worst night of the year, minus 3.5 units, but we get back on the horse. Coming at it this week.
Gotta love Reyes going for the guillotine there.
Yeah, Reyes pulling guillotine.
Fantastic fight IQ.
Really ruined my night. And Cub getting KO'd in the first round by a body kick. That obviously was predictive. No other way that fight could have played out. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll hop into it. We've got the first fight of the night. We got Carlston Harris taking on Christian Aguilar. Whoops. And Carlston Harris making his UFC debut. Quinn, I know you have a bet here. What do you got?
Yeah, I have 2 units on Carlston Harris right now at minus 140. Congrats on whoever got him at evens when it opened. I like this matchup a lot for him. I think Aguilar is pretty much round one finish or bust, preferably KO. And I do think that Harris can be competitive with him at range here. Like I do like his striking. I like how he blends it well in with his wrestling. I do like his top game as well. I like his entries on his takedowns. And I like his level of comp regionally. How he got into the UFC was he fought one of Khabib's guys, 17-1 prospect on looking for a fight. I normally don't watch those because it's just a dumb show, but he subbed him within like 3 minutes of the first round. Really impressive performance here from him. So yeah, when I pretty much see like Aguilar, in my opinion, just having that like round one KO or bust upside, I really like the line on Harris here. I think he can use his wrestling here and get a sub or probably late second or third round.
Yeah. Andrew, I'm kind of curious to see your opinion here because I have some pretty strong opinion. Well, not super strong, but I think I have a bit of contrarian take on Harris's wrestling. But obviously, you come from a pretty high-level wrestling background yourself. So you want to even break down here? You got anything here?
Yeah, I actually got in on Harris at minus 115 a couple weeks ago. Taped this fight nice and early. I think Quinn touched on a lot of the good points. Not normally, I'd be a little skeptical of the regional guy coming in against someone like Aguilar, who seems pretty well-rounded. But again, to his point, the guys he was fighting on the regional scene were very legit competition. I think he's a win over Turman, a win over Michel Pereira, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I don't think he's Usman or anything like that, but I think it should be enough to get the job done here. I capped him around 65-70%. I think a lot of Aguilar's upside is hurting him on the feet, and even on the feet, I don't think he looked too bad. But I'm picking him to win here. He's committed. I like guys who commit to their best game plan, and he seems to always know that his best path to victory is just being an absolute blanket, and I think he's going to get the job done here.
Yeah, so I don't have a bet here, and you touched on an important point, and the reason that I'm not playing Aguilera, to be honest, which is, I don't really think I don't think Harris is a great wrestler, to be honest. He seems like he's very intent on bombing into the clinch, grabbing a body lock and using that, and it's just one of those things that I don't think body lock takedowns are very reliable at the UFC. Like, they come, but it's not like something you're going to be able to get every time you get into the clinch. And so, I kind of have this feeling when taping him that he's going to fight somebody that does a great job in the clinch defensively and working for underhooks, and he's going to be pretty fucked when that happens. But, to your point, he does stick to a game plan, and he will attack takedowns relentlessly. And with that being the case, like I don't get the feeling with Aguilera that like if I thought Aguilera was capable of jabbing and staying on the outside, I'd be pretty interested in the play here. But that's not really his game. It's more pressure, and I also don't think he has the best gas tank. So it's like, as much as I was tempted to fade Debutante, it's like I kind of agree. Like I think Harris is like 60-65%, just because like after 6-7 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked if Aguilera wins the first round, but unless he gets him out of there, I kind of just think it's going to, there's going to be a pretty significant tipping point at some point there. And, guys that are willing to wrestle and have good cardio, that goes a long way, even if you aren't very good at it. So, I see it. And
reach advantage for Harris too.
Yeah, I don't think he uses his reach. I mean, bottom line, if he has to use his reach in this fight, that's not a great thing. But I do think at like minus 115, that low line, I think that's a pretty good play. We move on.
I got one more thing on that. So like a lot of times we all, and I particularly talk about like the whole UFC level guy versus a regional guy, or I say regional guy, a guy who is in other promotions coming up, and sometimes it's difficult to judge the quality of competition. But I think it's worth noting that Aguilera probably wouldn't have been in the UFC if like, I know this whole COVID thing, like people have gotten a lot of like short notice calls and kind of they kind of have been cycling through guys a little bit. So it's not like he's some well established UFC guy. Like Harris could have just as easily got the call a year ago and went 1-1 or whatever. Aguilera, they beat Ivy in 30 seconds. But I just wanted to make that point. It's not like he's some well established UFC guy.
No, and that's a really good point. And it's one of the reasons I avoided Aguilera. I played Caceres against Kroom when a lot of people were on Kroom because I was just like. The level of defensive grappling in the UFC, even if it doesn't look good against good wrestlers, is very different than what Kroom's facing. But to your point, this isn't really that situation. Aguilera hasn't – I mean, the best guy he's fought is probably David McCall, who just kind of went through him. I mean, and so it's like, he has a win, but it was, like you said, in 30 seconds, before Ivy even attempted a takedown. And so it's like maybe he teaches him a lesson here, but I wouldn't really call him a vet. And, I agree. Like, I don't really think he's UFC level either. So we move on. We got Tafon and Chukwi. Big prospect. A lot of people high on Tafon. Making his second appearance in the UFC against the Iron Turtle, Jin Young Park. And I'm on Park big here, to be honest. I have 3 units on Park at plus 150. It's funny because I think in theory I'm kind of high on Tafon long term because there's not many guys in that weight class who can pump the kind of output he can for 15 minutes. And like that's going to go a long way. And as he rounds out his skill set, I have to imagine, he's going to get better and he is a good athlete and that will, be beneficial. But like right now, that's really all I see from him when I look at the tape is like output, that's it. And, you look at his fights, he fought on contenders at 4-0 or 3-0, and he fought Al Matavao, who's a lightweight, who basically made him miss without any trouble at all for about 7 minutes before, and it was on 1 day's notice before he gassed out and got finished. And then you saw him fight Pickett, and Pickett attempted 80 strikes that fight. He basically just had no interest in really kind of ever engaging him. He just backed up to the fence and let him tee off. And if you actually go back and watch that, I think it's either the late second or the third round. At one point, Pickett actually bites the mouthpiece and starts throwing, and he hits him at will. He actually hurts him briefly for a second. And like it's a common theme when guys have actually thrown it in Chukwi. He doesn't have head movement. He does that old just engaging thing of the high guard to kind of like protect himself. But, that's really his defense. So he's wide open to the body. He's very hittable. He pressures, but like it's one of those things where it's like I remember before the Cruz Kenny fight, I was like, Kenny goes forward, but there's a difference between going forward and cutting off the cage. And I kind of think it's the same thing here, where it's like when he fights somebody who can move laterally and put a jab in his face, he's going to have big time issues. And I kind of think that's the case with Park, because first of all, Park's got a very high output for middleweight as well. And second of all, I think we've almost seen this fight. Some people might get upset about this, but like, I'm not certain Tafon and Chukwi is a lot better than Marc-Andre Barriault, to be honest. And I think Barriault actually is a much more effective pressurer than Chukwi is. And we saw Park spend 15 minutes basically just jabbing and moving away from Barriault without any issue at all. And I kind of think he can do the same thing here. I also think he's a much cleaner boxer, probably has tighter punches and faster hands in the pocket. He obviously can break pressure with grappling, and it wouldn't totally shock me if he knocked Tafon out. He has a bad tendency of leading with the right hook, like over and over and over again into the pocket, and that's something that a good boxer like Park, if they pick up on, can flatline you with. So yeah, it's just like Park has 17 fights. He's fought real competition. He's looked good against it. He has a style suited to beat Tefon, in my opinion. I think Tefon's got some talent, but I think he's extremely green and isn't quite ready for this level of competition. Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, no, I don't have a play here. It's kind of a pass for me. I just want to see how Tefon does in this fight. I do think he has like a lot of skills. I do like the point that you made to where he didn't really start turning it up until late, and I don't really like to stat against someone, especially who is like a pretty solid favorite. But he's very very athletic. He does have power, and he has good boxing. But Park, he's no slouch. He has really really good striking. Like you said, he has high output. I like the fact that he can fight well moving backwards. He has good leg kicks. I mean, he's definitely no slouch here at all. And I do think that he could definitely test the grappling up to here too. So I personally don't have a play, but I don't hate the stab on Park as the dog here at all. I'm probably going to be picking him to win. So
Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, so I thought about it when he was plus 150, and I kind of waited a little bit to pull the trigger. And I didn't have crazy strong feelings about it. Like I think there was a little bit of value on plus 150. I think it's just kind of hard to cap like that athletic / still getting better upside of Tefon. Am I saying his name right? Tefon, whatever. not the Iron Turtle, the Iron Turtle's opponent. Dude, Park not being able to submit John Phillips will drive me crazy till the day I die. Like, come on, bro. Like, crazy. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, it's tough because Park's fought the better competition. He hasn't looked bad against that competition. He hasn't looked amazing against that competition. And what really made me a little hesitant is it's like hard to like get into the weeds without like seeing it on the screen. But like there were like little technical things that Park wasn't doing that like I would have needed to see from him to really be confident in a play. But I don't hate it. I think I do totally agree that Tefon is super green. And in his last fight, you made the point that he was like his opponent Pickett was kind of just like backing up and just like taking shot. It was like weird. Like he was. I don't want to say he wasn't trying. I think gun shy is the word. He was a little gun shy, and I think that made Tefon look really better than he is probably. But yeah, I know I just said a lot, but those are my thoughts.
No, yeah, it's good. I don't disagree with most of that. We move on, Andrew. I'm gonna stick with you here. We got Ryan Benoit taking on Zaruk Adashev. Do you have a play? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have a play here, but I had Adashev like I want to say it was like 3-4 months ago as like a dog to like someone who was really bad, and that fight got scrapped, and then it got remade. And I bet him again, and I got scrapped again, and I never really it never really played. I was like a really low level fight. I taped it far in advance, and then Adashev fought the Asian guy. I can't think of his name.
Sumadirji.
Who?
He fought Sue. He fought
Yeah.
Sue, and Sue was like minus 400, and it was just a bad stylistic matchup for him. I mean, like Sue's really long for the weight, good striker, but I feel like he did still in that fight did a lot better than people. Like I think the round 1 KO prop was like plus 100 for Sue in that fight, and like he didn't really necessarily win rounds or even win minutes, but I think he represented himself better than a lot of people thought he would in that fight. And here I like Benoit in general. I think he's pretty well-rounded, but the one thing we haven't really seen is much of Adashev's ground game. So I think if that's a route, I don't know. If that's a route Benoit would consider taking, like I have this like sheet of notes here because I taped the fights pretty far in advance, so I forget a lot. But I had it written down that if subs crazy odds, I think Benoit subs not a bad play, but I don't have any plays at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I largely agree. Like before tape, like I was kind of thinking I was going to probably play Benoit, especially if the line kept coming in. And like largely, I still think Benoit has the tools to look like a huge favorite. Like you said, like if Benoit comes out and just dives at legs, he's probably going to do whatever he wants to him with minimal difficulty, potentially sub him. But he doesn't really do that. He doesn't have a great gas tank. He doesn't attempt really that many takedowns despite having kind of a wrestling base. And so if it's a kickboxing match, do I want to take a shot at Adashev plus 125, plus 130? Not really, just because, he looked okay against Sue, but not enough for me to really gauge anything, to be honest, about his game. And so it's not something I have a ton of interest in. But Benoit's super low. He lost to Tim Elliott in a fight that he had every opportunity to win just purely because Tim Elliott, not even being able to wrestle him, just decided to do more on the feet. And so Adashev's fairly reliable to throw strikes, in bunches at least. So I can't hate a stab at him. I don't. With Benoit's like high upside, it's hard for me to take a bet at this number, but I get it. Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with both of what you guys are saying. Like if I knew that Benoit was going to come out and he was going to grapple consistently, I would definitely have a play on him here. I know that Adashev has like a pretty extensive kickboxing background, but I do think that I kind of favor Benoit at range as well. He is accurate. He's got good leg kicks, and I know Adashev, he stands heavy on that lead leg, and I do think that Benoit has the power advantage, but I can't trust him to grapple consistently here, and I can't trust him to like not put himself on the back of the cage. In general, I don't think Benoit is a bad fighter at all, but I need to see more consistency from him with like the strengths that he has. I do think that with his last fight with Elliott, he was training with the Danaher Death Squad, and that was a really good move from him, and I hope that he's still doing that, and I hope that he gets a solid game plan here, because I definitely think that the upside is there for him skill wise on the ground and on the feet. I was kind of hoping the line would come in so I could throw a play on him here, but I'm not a huge fan of it I think it's at like -150 on most books. I know that sub opened up at like +1,000 on a couple of books, and I think that is definitely worth a stab. I think it came in on Bet Online at +750. So if I can still get that when that comes in, I might put a small play on that. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to pass on this.
Yeah, we move on. We got another fun fight here. We got Ludovic Klein making his second fight in the UFC. Burned me pretty bad in his first fight. That was on Shane Young, taking on Mike Trezza. Andrew, I'll start with you. You got any feelings here? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just looking at this, like the board of all the lines this weekend and seeing Klein being the biggest favorite on the card over Crisano is just, it's funny to me. It's like the Charlie Brown football thing. It's like, how many times are we going to overvalue a guy for getting around 1 KO? It's like,
yep.
Do I really need to say much more than that? Like, I could go off on some 10-minute tangent about how this line's crazy, but I feel like if you've ever heard me talk on the show or my Twitter before, you know how I feel about this fight. I played this fight a couple weeks ago. I thought +200 was a gift, and you could still get that price. I don't see how you could possibly cap Klein -250 here. And it's one of those things where, like, it's possible he's going to knock him out, and it's possible he's going to knock him out in the first round. That doesn't justify him being -250. Yeah. That's just like a big part of his win condition. So could that happen? Yes. Does that happen at the clip that he's capped at? No. So those are essentially my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. It's funny because it's like, I don't hate Klein. Like, if you look at his tape, he does some cool stuff. He clearly is dynamic. He's clearly got good finishing ability. But, his regional tape is mostly against, complete cans on the Czech regionals. The best fighter he probably fought there was Sajewski. His next was 0-3 in the UFC. And that fight was over very quick because I believe he head kicked him, if I recall correctly, and finished that fight. And then obviously the Shane Young fight, the same thing happened. The one thing I kind of did take away from it, look, he's reasonably technical. He's obviously dynamic. He's quick. He's an okay grappler, but nothing special. I don't think he has the best understanding of range, and I don't think his boxing is really the deepest ever. I think he's pretty reliant on 1-2s and head kicks. And for one thing, Crisano, is 4 inches taller than him. It's not easy to head kick somebody who's 4 inches taller than you successfully. Beyond that, Crisano, he's a classic Tiger Schulman guy, very well-rounded, good boxer, good grappling, good defensive grappling. You saw him before he got taken down and mounted by Dawson. He was giving Dawson a really, really hard time, in the grappling there. And not many guys have been able to do that. In terms of his boxing, he does throw combinations. He's extremely difficult to hit on the feet. He's got their reach is the same, but with the height advantage, I actually think Crisano has a much better understanding of range than Klein does. And So it's like that combined with, I think this is probably a big step up in competition. Like for Klein to pay off minus 250, he's pretty much got to KO him in the first round. And if that doesn't happen, there's virtually no way I can see a 15-minute kickboxing match where this looks much past evens in Klein's direction, to be honest. Maybe he hurts him a few times, but like, does he have the tools to like consistently win minutes against Crisano? I don't really think so personally. Maybe he can, but I think minutes will be close. Like it's his best case scenario. And then you take the grappling aspect of it. I don't know that Crisano will reliably wrestle, but I think if he does, he's probably almost certainly the better grappler here and probably has substantial upside. And so it's like, I guess Klein probably has, without an early KO, minus 125 upside, whereas right, and Trezano's got significant favorite upside. So yeah, I have a couple units on Trezano here, like plus 205, plus 211. I actually just hit him again today at plus 211. And to be honest, if he moved to like plus 230 or something like that, I'd probably hit him again just because I think the line doesn't make any sense at all. Quinn, how about you?
Sorry,
no worries.
Yeah, no, I have half a unit on Trezano here at a plus. I think it's plus 204 that I got. Yeah, I completely agree with what you guys are saying. I think that the market is completely inflating Klein's line here with that first round KO. I know Trezano's been out for a while, but I do love the camp that he's training with. He's training the Schulman brothers. He's got Julio Arce, Shane Burgos in his camp as well. I think he can be competitive on the feet here. He's never been KO'd or anything, and I do like his strike numbers. I also think that he can definitely be competitive in the clinch and on the ground, and I do think he has a little bit of a pure jiu-jitsu advantage here too. So at plus 200, yeah, the line didn't really make much sense to me, so I was able to get on that for half a unit here at plus 204, which I was happy about.
Yeah, nice. And so we move on. We got Andrew's boy, Phil Hawes, taking on Kyle Dawkins. Andrew, you want to take us away here?
Yeah, dude, I'm bummed. When I looked into this matchup, I wanted to like Hawes more than I do. I actually only thing I've played on the fight right now is fight doesn't go to decision at minus 152. I think the reason I'll give you the backstory behind that joke. Basically, in Hawes' last fight against Imavov, Hawes I think opened at like minus 250 and people bet Imavov all the way down. Hawes was like almost a pick 'em, and then the fight got canceled and it got remade. And the lowest I could get Hawes at was minus 120. And I played him pretty big. Like I think I had like $600 on him at minus 120, and everyone was on Imavov. Like everyone was, and I was like, that was when I was taking a break from Twitter, and I was like, I just know people are like so fired up for this fight, but I really think Hawes is going to win this. And he goes out and wins every single second for the first like 13 minutes of the fight. Andrew Betts Hawes. No, I don't have him here, but yeah, he goes out and dominates the first 13 minutes of the fight. Then all of a sudden, like, gets hits hard / gasses and just starts like acting like he's never been in a fight before. And then the last 2 minutes were sweaty, and he ended up winning. But it was just funny. But yeah, I think in this fight, obviously Hawes is always going to have that early KO upside, but his cardio seems to be a question in every single one of his fights. And I'm pretty high on Dawkins. I played Dawkins when he was fighting Brendan Allen pretty big as a sizable dog. And that fight was close. And Allen's a pretty solid grappler, even though I haven't given him much credit in the past. I'll do it right now. But yeah, I know I'm jumbled with my thoughts here, but I think Hawes early is live. I think Dawkins late is live, but I think there's going to be a finish one way or another. I think there could be a scenario where Dawkins hurts him, Hawes shoots a takedown. Dawkins ends up either catching him in a submission or reversing him. So I think Hawes early KO is live, Dawkins sub is live, Dawkins late on the feet or sub is live too.
Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, I like Dawkins here a lot. I think he has some pretty clear advantages. And I like Hawes. I think he's an athletic specimen. He has good striking. He's got good pressure. He's got good KO power. He's got D1 wrestling in his back pocket. He's very good. But like Andrew touched on, he's notoriously gassy in his fights. If he can't get that first round KO, he kind of crumbles. And if you saw it in the Julian Marquez fight, you saw it in the fight with Imavov. When he gets tired, his defense completely goes down. If you put him on the back foot, his defense completely goes down. And Dawkins, he has solid striking, slick boxing combinations. I don't really want to talk about how frustrating his fight versus Allen was when he was consistently grappling. But I do definitely think that he could get a late stoppage here. I was not a fan of the way Haas was reacting to the shots that Imavov was landing on him in round 3, like at all. And he hurt him pretty bad multiple times, and I was kind of hoping that people would see this Haas ML line and bet him up so I could probably get Dawkins at slight dog evens, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So I think with ML, you could probably look to bet live, Dawkins live, but I'm definitely going to be on him round 3 plus 750. I just see the scenario in my head that he hurts Haas on the feet. Haas shoots a shitty takedown and he wraps up that Darce. Like I really think that's 100% live here. I'm also going to be on Dawkins inside the distance once I get the line. I think this is just a pretty solid matchup for him here, and I think he Haas quit and get finished.
Yeah, so I've considered playing Dawkins, especially with the line coming in. I've considered playing the under or the ends inside the distance. I guess my concern with both, firstly on the Dawkins front, I agree with Quinn that it's probably best served as a live spot. But Haas, whatever you say about him, he's a quitter, blah, 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 blah. He's got a big gas tank. Haas, while he's fresh, is lethal. He's extremely dangerous, both on the feet, and he has an insane power wrestling game. And so it's like, I favor Haas to win the first round at a decent clip if he does what he does, to be honest. And so with that being the case, like if I think I'm going into round 2 down around 60 to 70% of the time, like I don't need to bet, just bet Dawkins before the fight. I can bet him live. I believe Imavov was like plus 250 or plus 300 live after a round. Maybe the book adjusts to that this time, but we don't really know. And it kind of avoids, the first round nuke. Second thing with Dawkins for me is if you told me Dawkins would just stay at space, use his boxing, I'd be all over him because he has really sharp boxing. If he was willing to just hang out there and string it together, I would love him here. But every single fight, we see Dawkins both regionally on contenders against Brendan Allen, against who did he just fight? Justin. It doesn't matter. It does the same exact thing.
Stolfus.
Yeah, Stolfus. Yeah, Dustin Stolfus. He does the same thing. He either will attempt takedowns or he'll get almost uncomfortable after he lands a couple shots and dive into the clinch. And that concerns me. It's like, where do I not want him with Haas? Grappling to any extent. Like I get Dawkins is great on the ground. He is, but I don't want him getting into a battle of the clinch with Haas, who's a physically powerful guy. And that's kind of my same concern with the under. I do think it's the side. Like I have it kind of capped like 65%, which is now around where the line is for ends inside the distance. It's just, I expect the finish to happen, but 70% of Haas's octagon time has been spent grappling. 80% of Dawkins has been. I am just concerned that we get Haas gassed out 7 minutes in and Dawkins lands a 1-2 and is then pushing him into the clinch. And we get this stupid clinch war where the fight drags out for 15 minutes. Like I can see it so clearly in my head. And it's like, I do think Dawkins probably finishes him or Haas gets him out early. I may still play it, but it is a concern of mine. So right now, no play for me. But I am going to be looking to get to Dawkins live if he doesn't get put out of there early or put Haas out of there early.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go for it.
I had Haas submission against Imavov at plus 2,000, which implies like 4% off the top of my head. But that is, I was like, all right, cool. He took him down. All right, cool. He passed. The arm triangle's right there. Like I'm about to win a couple $1,000. And he just like won't take it. And I'm literally sitting there like with the TV, like you got to be fucking kidding me. Plus 2,000 on that was crazy.
He's a good grappler, but he panics when he's on top. He's just like, okay, let me hold on for dear life. Let's get to the ring.
Yeah. Like he looked like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. But I'm like, dude, you're not in trouble. You're in trouble.
I don't know if you guys watch interviews, but he had this interview with this idiot. They talked about COVID for the first 8 minutes, but the last like 5 minutes of the interview, he talks about the matchup with Haas, and he has a pretty solid game plan. He talked about pretty much everything that we picked up on. And I do like it when I hear fighters say that. So, who knows? Maybe he'll do us a favor here and stay at range and not clinch him like he says he's going to in the interview. But, that's just one extra good point to put out there if you're going to get behind Dawkins.
Yeah, that's fair. And so we move on. We have Ben Rothwell coming back again. Guy's been fighting like crazy during COVID, taking on Felipe Lynch. And I think this is a mess, to be honest. I mean, Lynch has the tools to win, but Lynch seems chinny. He's been knocked out a million times. His unwillingness to engage with Arlovsky, and I get Arlovsky does that to a lot of people, but it scares me, the fact that he had the center and just wouldn't ever kind of let his hands go. He probably will against Rothwell because Rothwell's going to go forward and throw. But the experience gap plus, Rothwell, it's funny because I hear a lot of people this week talking about how Rothwell has a bad output, and there's just literally nothing at all to suggest that that's the case, stats-wise or otherwise. He might do what he did against Tybura and throw 120 strikes in round one in gas, but Rothwell throwing strikes isn't an issue. It never has been. It's not now. So, but I just don't have any interest in playing it. Rothwell shot. Lynch, I just don't trust. I think Lynch is probably the side, but I don't know. Andrew, how about you? Anything here?
I have nothing to say about this fight.
Gwen?
Let's just pass it. I have
Nice.
no interest. No interest here at all.
We move on to a fight that I think Andrew and I have separate sides on. We got Angela Hill taking on Amanda Ribas. To be clear, before I break this down, I wouldn't play Hill at the current line. I played her at plus 185 last week. Just for like a unit. I guess my thinking is I'm still fairly skeptical about Amanda Ribas' wrestling, not her top game in particular. Like I think on top she's extremely dangerous. It's more, I bet Marina against her, and we'll get to Marina in a second, at plus 250, basically being like Ribas attempts everything upper body. Marina really shouldn't have a problem shucking her off. Sure enough, she gets a body lock in 30 seconds and takes her down. I didn't feel great about that bet after the fact, but I kind of do feel that way with Hill, where it's like I don't think Hill's a good grappler, but she's clearly made improvements, and I do think she's going to be able to. I mean, if Ribas comes out and attempts 15 takedowns, yeah, she's going to win this fight, but that doesn't seem likely to me, and I do think Hill will stuff the majority of them. The question is, does she finish her when she gets to the mat? Maybe, but Claudia is really dangerous on top too, and she was able to work up there early in that fight. And striking, I think it's pretty competitive, to be honest. I'm not going to say anything like Ribas is chinny. I do think she's a bad tendency to leave her chin in the air when she's in the pocket, but I mean, Hill's got a ridiculous output. It's going to be to me, striking is going to be pretty 50-50. I give Ribas obviously a grappling edge if she gets it there, but I just don't think she's reliable to project for more than 1-2 takedowns. So with that being the case, like I kind of view Hill as like, I don't know, 40%-ish. So I took a 1-unit stab there. It's not the most confident play in the world, but I do think she has the tools to make this a really close fight. It's really just more to me a question of how consistently can Ribas hit takedowns. Andrew, what are your thoughts here?
I think Angela Hill looks lost every time the fight hits the mat, and I think her matchups haven't particularly played out as much in the grappling as they could have. Like if you look at her last 5-10 fights, like Cypher's fight throwaway from a grappling perspective, Cypher's can't grapple. Carnelossi throwaway.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you get like Brandon Marcos who pulled off an armbar on her. And again, like it can happen. I'm not saying like she's a shitty grappler because she got subbed by Brandon Marcos. But then like you look at the Gadela fight, and I watched that and I'm like, how the fuck? Is that me?
At the all-new Kia of
Who is that?
Bring home $350 a week. You can get up to $25,000.
Is that you, Andrew?
Is it gone? I don't know.
I think it's
gone. Anyway, Hill. What was I saying? Hill, like if you look at the Gadela fight, like she didn't. I almost feel like I watched that fight and like I had bets on Claudia's submission and stuff and submission round one. I feel like if she just went balls to the wall to like try to get takedowns and grapple, like she would have won that fight. But it was like she got 1 or 2 takedowns. Hill didn't get back up when it happened, and then she kind of, whenever like the round ended, they were back to the feet. She just kind of was content in a close striking match. She ended up winning a split, which is like, yeah, if she's gonna strike, it's gonna be a really close fight. And I think yeah, it's pretty even on the feet, I guess here. Like I personally don't have a bet on the money line right now. Like I initially when I first looked into this fight, I was like, I'm gonna nuke that Ribas line. But then I was like, I feel like a lot of her win condition is submission, and so instead, like I have submission at plus 380 right now, which I feel pretty comfortable with because, like I said, I see some of those reactions when Hill gets taken down by grapplers who aren't as accomplished as as Ribas is. She just does not look comfortable on her back. And I think if she gets, it might only take one, but if she gets 3-4 takedowns in this fight, I really like her chances to get a submission. So I think Ribas will win this fight, and hopefully from my bank account find a submission.
Yeah, I mean, if she gets 3 or 4 takedowns, then my bet's fucked and the analysis is way off. Sub or not. I'm just more. I don't really. I hate head and arm throws and I hate upper body takedowns just because I think people who know what they're doing. Now, whether Hill does, we'll see. But I kind of think people who know what they're doing can defend them with relative consistency. But we'll see. Quinn, what do you think here?
Yeah, no, I like Ribas here a lot. I'm not super bullish on the money line in general, but I do think that it could only take like 1 or 2 takedowns for her to either sub Hill or steal the round completely. Like, Ribas' takedown game might not be like the greatest, but it's worked consistently in the UFC, and I don't like just like Andrew said, I don't like Hill's hasn't really, she's improved takedown defense a little bit, but that's been her kryptonite. So it's always just been so hard for me to play her against girls that have that grappling upside here, especially Ribas, who I can't get that quick submission of when Hill got subbed by Marcos. Like, that was just so quick and easy, and it that was what, 2 years ago. And she's gotten her base up by like consistently like getting hits and she fights like 3-4 times a year, and people really like her, but you go back in the Waterson fight, she was beating the shit out of Waterson on the feet, and then, was giving up takedowns towards the later part of the fight and made that fight way closer. And she locked off that fight essentially, fish out of water off her back, and really no urgency to get up in general. And, Ribas has a really heavy top game, and she passes the guard very well, very high level black belt. So that just like in a 3-round fight here, that like really worries me. And if Ribas comes in any sort of game plan, it should be a grappling based game plan, because I do think that on the feet, it is going to be even, but I do think that Ribas also nullifies striking exchanges pretty well when she's not getting knocked out. And I do think, Hill KO could kind of be live, but I don't know. I don't really as a super high outcome. Once I do get the sub prop, I'll probably be on Ribas sub here. But other than that, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, fair. So we move on. We got a really fun fight in the lightweight division. We had Gregor Gillespie, who was supposed to fight Bradley Riddell. I'm quite aggravated that got canceled. I think I had -165, and I had a lot on Gregor for that fight. Unfortunate. Now he takes on Carlos Diego Vejeda, coming off a loss to Beneil Dariush. I don't have a bet here. This is a weird fight. Magic's in the comment section, but I saw him mention on Twitter, it was an awkward fight. And I think it's a very awkward fight. And the reason, if you told me Gregor comes out and attempts 15 takedowns, I'd be pretty confident he wins. He flows well enough on top that I would be pretty surprised if he gets subbed from bottom. And, look, I know he's not necessarily a credential black belt in the gym, but his understanding of submission grappling is a black belt level. And when you combine that with his wrestling, it's extremely dangerous. And so if he does take that path, I expect Vejeda can work up fairly consistently, but I think Gregor would put him back down over and over again. My concern is more, how often do we see these guys when they fight high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners, decide to strike with them? How often? It happens all the time. We even saw, and I wouldn't say Lee. I mean, Lee's got good jiu-jitsu, but we saw Gregor do it for 2 minutes and 40 seconds with Lee. And I don't subscribe at all to the narrative Gregor's chinny. Look, he got kicked by a log in the head. There's nothing really. There's no shame in that knockout. But my concern is the 2 minutes and 40 seconds that preceded that of him boxing with Lee. And to be clear, I actually think Gregor's boxing is a little underrated. He's not defensively sound at all, but his hands are decent and he's got some pop. I'm just worried, though, if he gets into a brawl with Vejeda, and Vejeda will give it to him, I don't really want to be laying -170 on that potential outcome where, this might turn into a high variance fight or him potentially getting knocked out. I still am thinking about playing it. It's just, I don't know. I'm very confident that he can survive on top and he can do what he wants if he wants to. It's just a matter of will he do it. I've been burned by these spots too many times in the past. The one that most recently comes to mind is Verna, who's a high enough level black belt that she should have been able to comfortably survive on top of Dern and decided she wanted to kickbox with Dern. I haven't gotten over that. And it's like, that's my concern here. I like Gregor. I think Gregor has a minus 300 path to victory if he just does what Benny did and just takes him down over and over again. But we'll see. Andrew, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so a few things, and I think that was pretty good. But you mentioned how sometimes there's wrestlers who don't want to take the jiu-jitsu guys down and end up getting in a kickboxing match with them. I don't think Gregor knows any other way other than to go out there and go for a takedown. Like, it's easy to, like, I guess maybe the first minute or two of the Kevin Lee fight, he went and kickboxed, but like, I don't know Gregor personally. I know some people who know him and vice versa. Like, that is all he knows. Like, it was like when Chael used to fight back in the day. It was like, no matter what, he's like, it's no secret what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to put my head in your chest and try to double leg you and pound and punch you in the head until the bell rings or the ref pulls me off. And I think Gregor Gillespie has a pretty similar mentality to that. And it might just be me. I also think that Ferreira didn't look good at all in his last fight. Like, I almost like he was starting to look old. Like, I know I didn't have a play on that fight. I know a lot of people were kind of on him there. And I thought he kind of looked not great. He started to look his age. I think he's 36, 37 now. I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head. But I think if Gregor does take him down, you mentioned like he'll get back up and Gregor's going to take him back down. I think he's going to wear him out doing that. I didn't think his gas tank looked good in his last fight. I didn't think he looked good in his last fight. But I think if the fight plays out how we seem to think it's going to play out, I think Ferreira is going to get tired, and I think Gregor's probably going to cruise the decision. And I think the submission threat is probably more of an early thing because, like I said, I don't trust Ferreira's gas tank. And I just said all that, and I don't have any bets on the fight at the moment. Considering the Gregor play, also you have to consider he's been out of the octagon for a while, so I always take that into consideration. I'm not a huge fan of playing people off a layoff, but more willing to play him at this age rather than if he was 40 years old coming off of a layoff, or if you get what I'm saying. But anyway, I think we don't have any plays on fight at the moment. If the line continues to close, which I don't know that it will, because normally people like to bet the wrestler in this spot, I'd play it, but to be determined. I'm picking Gillespie.
Yeah, and to your point, real quick, like, I know it's a layoff, but guy's been wrestling his whole life. If he does what we expect him to do, there's not going to be any rust there. He's probably, in terms of pure wrestling, the best wrestler in the UFC by maybe outside of Islam. Everybody else by a pretty comfortable margin. So, yeah. Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with all the points. I really like Gillespie here. I love CDF. I think he's a fantastic fighter. But I think that this is a pretty bad matchup for him, especially watching Dariush have the success that he had against him here. And honestly, if Gregor comes out here and tries to kickbox with CDF, like that would be an atrocious idea, especially coming off of that brutal KO loss. And I don't really think that he's going. Like, I don't think he's going to do that. I really don't. Like, obviously he could do that, but like, I'm not like that worried about it at all. And like you said, John, I do think that he's going to be rinse and repeating takedowns here, and he can do that consistently. He can do that for 3 rounds. He can nullify all the sub exchanges, and really not give CDF his path to victory, which is like really going to be on the feet. I think if anyone does finish, it's going to be CDF here. I personally like the play Gregor by decision at +1. I think it's +150 now. I don't have access to it yet, but I'll probably put 1 unit on that once I do get it. I think that's a pretty good spot to play here. I'm not a huge on the ML personally, but I do like the +150 that they're giving us on the decision here. I do think that is his most likely outcome, so I'll be on that for sure.
Yeah, well, speaking of huge on the ML, Quinn, I'm going to stick with you here. We got Paisan, Marcos de Lima, taking on the Crochet Boss, Maurice Green. What do you got?
So I have 3 units so far on de Lima here at -1. I think I got -165. I saw that line and I was like, this line makes absolutely no sense. And I instantly played it. I think he's an absolutely terrible stylistic matchup for Green here. We saw Green get walked down by Volante and get teed off on for the better part of 2 rounds get hurt multiple times and almost finished. And he gassed and got subbed and made made the squares look so good on that -1,000 sub prop. That was one of the biggest flukes I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think De Lima, he's gonna be walking him down here. He's gonna throw his leg kicks. He got really, really sharp inside boxing. He's fast, way faster than Green. Like, I know Green is tall and he has that length, but he does not know how to use it notoriously, and he's extremely hittable if you put him on the back foot here. And say what you want about De Lima being a quitter and gassing. Like, I know that is a worry. But he has, in my opinion, such a striking advantage, especially early, especially in the first couple of rounds here. And I do think that he also can get in the clinch, win in the clinch there. If he does over takedowns, which I don't think he should at all, I do think that he can definitely get on top of Green and work him there. There's this weird narrative that Green is some good wrestler and submission grappler, which is completely untrue. I just think Green is a complete fraud here. And I think he's going to get knocked out in the first round. I'm going to be on. I know some people. I'm going to be on De Lima by KO round 1 here at I think it's plus 225. And I'm playing inside the distance -125. I'm honestly not a fan at all of that of the props for this fight. I think that they are just the market's kind of just making up or putting out the shitty ML line here. It doesn't really make any sense to me how his inside the distance is -125 when his ML is close to -190, 200. It is what it is here, but I think that he absolutely just mauls Green here. And the crochets can go back to crocheting.
But yeah, so I'm with you. I'm huge on De Lima here. And to be honest, when I was looking at this line, I've been watching this line for probably the better part of 3 weeks because I've been pretty perplexed at why it's not moving. And that kind of shit really scares me, to be honest, because it usually means someone knows something. And it's pretty freaky to me that, Rogerio De Lima was sitting around -150 to -170 for 3 weeks. That didn't make much sense. I did get in at -170. I think all in I have about 4 units on him. But I guess I'm still nervous about it that the line's only at -200 now. I am still, but I don't see, Quinn touched on the submission grappling aspect. I know Maurice Green's saying, just wait till you see what I've been working on. We're going to get D1 Maurice Green. The guy hasn't attempted a takedown in the UFC. He's Adam Wiczorek, who De Lima fought, I believe, 3 fights ago, is a far better submission grappler than Maurice Green, and De Lima took him down and just basically controlled him for 3 rounds. I think if Green, we just saw De Lima, look, he ended up getting finished by Romanov, but he held his own early in that fight in defensive grappling. I don't think Green could get him down even if he wants to. I think if De Lima gets on top of him, he's going to do whatever he wants to him personally. And I think standing, it's kind of the same thing. It's Green's longer. He's a lot longer, and that's, I guess, the best thing he's got going. But his style is it's dollar store John Jones, I guess. It's just a lot of little poke kicks. He's very vulnerable to the legs. Volante kicked him in the leg 6 times, and he could barely move around on it. So De Lima throws heavy kicks. He's a much better kickboxer. I get the narratives about De Lima being a quitter, but De Lima on the feet is actually very, very good.
Especially for heavyweight.
Yeah, I just struggle to see where Green wins this fight on a consistent basis. And so I kind of think a Green win is predicated mostly on either De Lima doing something stupid and getting triangled or De Lima gassing out. Both could happen, but I think De Lima should be around -300 here personally. Andrew, how about you?
I think if Maurice Green comes to the cage with a pack of Newports, he's -1,000. But yeah, I don't know. This is a fight that I just personally, it's just not my kind of fight to even really care about. So pass.
Fair. We move on. We got a fun one. We got Neil Magny, Jeff Neal. This is the fight that should have been made the main event, to be honest, after Sandhagen and Dillashaw was canceled. But yeah, I have no bet here. I have this suspicion that Magny is pretty significant value. I don't want to play him at the number, but if he gets to plus 85, 200, I might have to jump in. I guess what I'm thinking is, look, Neal is obviously the better boxer. He's a cleaner boxer. He's a more powerful puncher. He's a decent grappler. But Magny historically has not really been easy to outstrike unless you could throw kicks and damage him with that. And Neal doesn't really throw kicks at all. And finding the pocket against Magny isn't easy. Like, I wouldn't say Magny manages distance well per se, but he's also not going to bite down on his mouthpiece with you and just let you throw strikes at him. So I kind of think on output, Magny's going to be a bit busier than Neal. Now, Neal might be able to outweigh that with damage optics, but Magny also probably has offensive wrestling upside. And to be honest, I actually think Neal, if he was smart, Neal's smartest thing he could do, Jeff Neal, that is, would be to take Magny down and wrestle, because I think that is really Magny's kryptonite. I was on Chiesa against him pretty big because, it's pretty clear if you taped it, Magny struggles a lot against decent grapplers. And I do think Neal's a decent grappler, but I don't expect him to really do that. The only time he's done that is with Nico Price after he got hurt by Price. And so, I don't know, man. I just think for Neal to pay off a -200 requires him to show levels to his game that we haven't seen yet. And I like Jeff Neal a lot. I think he's a great boxer. I think he's a great prospect. But it would be surprising to me if he just rolls Magny here. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have too strong feelings about this fight. A lot of what you said makes sense to me. I know that Magny typically, he's just kind of a tough out, really, for most strikers, I feel like. Like, if you look at the Lawler fight, I feel like it's a pretty good example. But then you look at the Chiesa fight. I had Chiesa sub and inside distance at stupid prices in that fight. I wanted to break my fucking TV when he couldn't. He was on top of him for 5 rounds, literally molesting him and couldn't tap him out, which drives me crazy. It's been 4 or 5 months since that happened, and still every day I'm like, anyway. I think I wasn't as high on Neal as a lot of people were. I played Stephen Thompson against him pretty big in his last fight at evens, which I thought was pretty crazy. But yeah, to your point, he has the damage upside here. He's the KO upside. I feel like Magny could out-volume him. I guess I cap Neal as a slight favorite, probably in the -150 range, but not enough to think there's really value on each side, and the props didn't look great, so I'm personally passing on that fight. Yeah, is the guy who in the chat right now that I always mess with?
He might be.
Which one?
Gamblestein.
Kool-Aid guy.
Kool-Aid guy.
He's a
good dude.
Right in if you're here.
I'm sure he'll be on the last
second. If you write something.
Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, I need to have a word with him.
No, I like Neal here. I agree. I don't like the ML price too much. When Magny's winning fights or when he's making it competitive, he's pretty hard to outpace at distance, in general. But I do think that the upside for the volume based decision here is pretty live for Neal. I know a lot of people think that he's just gonna dead Magny, but Magny's only been knocked out 3 times in his career. He's pretty durable in general. And I do think that we're gonna see a lot of clinching here, and maybe some grappling as well. So I kind of like the over 2.5. I haven't played it personally yet, but I was kind of eyeing that, and I honestly was kind of eyeing the Neal decision line. I think you can get it up to +250. We'll see what that is when I actually get access to those props. But I personally think that Magny survives the 3 rounds and Neal gets his hands raised in the end. So I might throw a small little play on the Neal's decision line here. But other than that, no real interest in playing the ML line other side. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of playing Neal at near 200. When I think that it could definitely be competitive in some stretches. So,
yeah, fair. So we move on. Co-main event, we have Diego Sanchez getting replaced on. Well, I mean, it's probably a better fight to be honest now. But we got Alex Morono taking on the legend Donald Cerrone. I don't think Cerrone's fought since Pettis, I believe. So it's been a while for him by his standards. First time in the full camp. Andrew, any thoughts here?
Didn't he fight Nico Price?
Oh, you're right.
He did fight Price to a draw. Yeah.
Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Dude, I think Diego Sanchez and Josh Fabia might be fucking. I know it's a little it's kind of off topic, but it's kind of related because he the whole thing that's going on. I was thinking about it earlier, and I was like, they might have a little something going on there, something to consider. As far as the Morono Cowboy fight goes, I think a lot of it depends on how much Cowboy's actually regressed, which I think he has. I do think he has. I think 2019 Cowboy versus 2021 Cowboy are almost two completely different people, because I remember like he looked pretty good against Quince. Like even in 2018 against, like, say what you want about him, but like even against Leon Edwards in 2018, I think that was like he lost 48-47, like had the flu, and like I don't know, like if you told me he was going to go out and take any rounds off Leon Edwards tomorrow, I'd be like, you're out of your fucking mind. But it's damage accumulated from Connor, from Tony Ferguson, from Justin Gaethje. Like he's fought these guys who just really take something out of you, and I think he does have something taken out of him at this point in his career. Finally, because it took a while. He obviously had this crazy long career where he's fighting everybody, step in on short notice, going to war. I think he could win this fight. I mean, technically, he's better than Alex Morono. I don't think there's really any debating about that. And I think this is kind of similar to how the Pettis fight was with Morono, just in the sense that, yeah, Pettis is better than Morono, but how much has Pettis regressed kind of thing, and how much has Cowboy regressed? I don't have any plays on the fight. I wanted the Sanchez versus Cowboy fight, and Sanchez having victory sex with Josh Fabia, but those are my thoughts on the fight.
Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, I have no play here. I agree. I'm not really a fan of Cowboy right now. In general, I just think he's getting older. I think he's more susceptible to getting hurt to the body. All the damage that he has just accumulated over the years is just, I'm just not a huge fan of. Morono, he will come forward, he will throw volume. But I do think, Cowboy in general, he should handle him everywhere here. I just don't trust Cowboy with where he's at all at the line. And in general here, and like I said, it will be competitive on the feet, in my opinion, just with the amount of volume that Morono does throw. I'm just going to sit back and watch it. I'm not a huge fan of playing either side, to be honest with you. But I do think if you're going to hit, it's probably dog or pass.
Yeah, so I have like a strong-ish take here, which is, kind of, I agree with your point, Andrew, that like he is a very different fighter and he's clearly atrophying like fairly fast. But unless he's totally washed, I think Cowboy should handle Morono, to be honest with you. And he may be totally washed. Like that's very in play. I took a bit of the minus 144 as it was getting steamed last night. I wouldn't really touch it where it's at now. Like I said, he has to be completely washed. I think he's got Morono covered wherever the fight goes. Like Morono's volume is such that he could keep, maybe minutes close standing, except we saw all that good volume from Morono disappear against the potent striker when he fought Anthony Pettis. And so should I expect him to really get off on volume big against Cowboy? I don't know. I don't really think so. I think Cowboy is probably the more dangerous striker. And then obviously there's a huge grappling hole with Morono that if Cowboy decides to, which he rarely does, but if he decides he wants to exploit it, he probably can. I don't feel great about it. And like I said, I wouldn't play him at the current number. But I do think, this is kind of the UFC saying, okay, we really don't want this to be the end, but you've got to take care of Alex Morono or this is the end, And I do think he should take care of Alex Morono. If he doesn't, he should probably hang it up. But just levels wise, this is probably the worst fighter he's faced in a decade, to be honest. And so, yeah, we'll see. But
rest in peace, those plus 400 surround decision tickets versus Pettis.
And I like Morono too. It's just like when you go from the guys he's been fighting to Cowboy Cerrone, it's just hard for me to trust. So that's my thoughts. We move on. Quinn, I'll start with you here. I know you have a bet. We have Marina Rodriguez taking on the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson. It's the main event nobody wanted, but it's the one we're getting. So what are your thoughts here?
I personally think that Marina is going to beat the absolute shit out of Waterson through 5 rounds. I really, on the feet, I don't really think it's competitive at all. I think that Waterson is pretty reliant on getting multiple takedowns here in a fight, and she lands less than like barely over 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and I don't really think that she's going to have enough success here through 5 in order to outweigh what Marina's going to do on the feet here. I mean, if you go actually look at the numbers a little bit, I mean, notoriously, like Waterson has absolutely atrocious striking metrics in general, and she's very, very hittable. Hill was beating the shit out of her on the feet, and this fight is also at 125, which I think completely favors Marina here in general. Waterson is pretty undersized for 115. She's fought 105, and I think that with with Marina not having to cut the weight, she's going to have better cardio upside. She's going to have more KO power at 125. I know that people are kind of worried about the fact that we haven't seen Marina go past 3 rounds, but in general, when she's on the feet, she puts pace on her opponents, and she's done that consistently through 3. I personally have not been a fan of betting Marina in general. I've made a good bit of money of fading her against people like Esparza, but I do think that at 125 here, this completely favors her here, and I do think that she could. She's going to beat the shit out of Waterson. I'm going to be on her KO here. I think it's like plus 300, plus 350. I think you could play the under 4.5 here as well. I just don't really see how Waterson, like with how undersized she is, and with like her really lack of grappling upside, in my opinion, is going to really outweigh what Marina's going to do on the feet here. So I really think Marina rolls. I think that she's a pretty high prospect in the division, especially when it comes to striking. I personally wish that she would have started her MMA career a lot earlier, but yeah, I think at 125 she's going to beat the shit out of Waterson.
Yeah, so I touched on it a bit earlier. I bet Marina against Ribas at plus 250, and I did that in large part because, like I touched on with Ribas' wrestling, I was like, it's a lot of throw-based stuff, and I thought Marina could defend it. And then sure enough, 30 seconds into the fight, Marina's got a full body lock, or Ribas has a full body lock and has her on the ground. And while I will say, Ribas is obviously more athletic than Michelle is, like, there's no question about that, and a better grappler overall, Waterson does a lot of the same stuff, and she has a single and double she'll mix in. If you go back to the Angela Hill fight, Waterson attempted 18 takedowns in that fight across 5 rounds. Now, if she attempts, I don't care what you say about Angela Hill. I agree. She's not a great defensive grappler. Her takedown defense is miles ahead of Marina Rodriguez's. I'm just stating a fact here. If she goes and attempts 18 takedowns here, I'm not saying she'll necessarily win. I think she has a very strong chance to win this fight, especially because, while I don't think she's a very good wrestler at all, Waterson, when she gets on top, is pretty heavy. She doesn't really concede position a lot, and she's fairly opportunistic. Ribas probably could have subbed Marina in the first fight if she was a bit more aggressive, with, looking to advance position. Waterson will attack subs, sometimes ill-advised subs, but she's fairly opportunistic. So I guess my view of the fight is I'm not betting Waterson, at least not at the number right now, but it's how can you back Marina as a favorite against somebody that's going to attempt that many takedowns? Like, we've seen it. You want to play a KO line? Okay. You want to play an under? Okay. But we've seen so many times now her get stuck on her back and just have nothing. She's got decent guard retention, but she doesn't look to get up. And so you're telling me 3 takedowns could potentially mean a decision win for Waterson, and she's going to attempt 18 takedowns? I just can't get behind Marina there. And it's all of that is to say, though, I am not super confident Waterson's going to attempt 18 takedowns. She's only done that once in her career. And, on the feet, I agree. Marina, it's going to be one-way traffic. Marina's going to fuck her up there and could potentially finish her. And so ultimately, it's I don't have a ton of interest in this fight. I do cap Marina as a slight favorite just because I think her path is a bit more consistent than Waterson's. But when it comes to thinking about the fight, though, you have to think about the possible outcome of Waterson landing 3 to 4 takedowns and just grinding out top time, because it is a very realistic outcome, in my opinion. Andrew, what do you think here?
I want to play devil's advocate to you a little bit. You had mentioned that Hill is a better defensive wrestler than Rodriguez. Sorry, I got the names jumbled for a second. But just to play devil's advocate here, Marina Rodriguez's last 3 fights are against Amanda Ribas, Carla Esparza, and Cynthia Calvillo, who are arguably probably the 3 best grapplers in the division. Tatiana Suarez. You get my point. They're pretty grapplers. And again, that's just to point out that she's what? She's won 1-1 in those fights. So
if we didn't have the Marcos fight, I'd be completely on board with that. That's really kind of the glaring red flag for me.
Yeah, well, you could also say that Marcos submitted
Angela Hill. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though. It's I
100% know what you mean. I think personally that Waterson is not as good of a wrestler as any of those girls that we mentioned. And I think over 3 rounds, That's why I was kind of laughing when you first said the main event none of us wanted, and then I was like low key, like I kind of wanted it to be main event because I think over 5 rounds that really plays an impact in this fight. I think Rodriguez's chances go up drastically in a 5-round fight.
100%.
It's just like that much more time that Waterson's gonna have to stand across from her when even if it's just the beginning of the round where they stand them back up. And I think on the feet, it's a wrap on the feet. I think Rodriguez is gonna fuck her up. I don't think Waterson has the physicality or the wrestling technique to consistently land takedowns here. And will she land 1 or 2? Maybe. It depends how long the fight lasts. But I think it'll be one of those fights where she shoots. Another thing you'd mentioned before is I don't know if she'll attempt 18 takedowns. I think she is because I think she's going to be getting fucked up and just like diving for legs. I think
Panic wrestling.
Panic wrestling, just like shooting from across the octagon, like just not. And I think Marina probably stops her. I think she stops her late. I think my prediction
plus 350 KO.
I'm on inside distance at plus 360, and I'm on the round 4 prop at plus 2600, and the round 5 prop. Round 5 prop plus 3600. I think she's gonna finish.
Solid line.
Yep, that's fair. The devil's advocate I would play to your devil's advocate is Waterson also took down Joanna and got her back twice in that fight.
Yeah.
Now, I will grant you, Marina is way more physical and way more dangerous than Joanna, but I agree with like both your points really, and I think Marina's going to win this fight. It's more across 5 rounds. She's not a good wrestler at all. But if she attempts enough takedowns against a bad grappler, it's like it's just too easy for me to imagine that happening. I actually think the under is pretty decent. I think those 4 or 5 props are pretty decent as well. It's just, I don't know. I'm like, Marina scares me. It's one of those things where it's just
she
like,
scares me too.
Yeah, it's. I hope she wins because I think if she beats her and she gets someone Rose or Joanna, like those would be great fights, But it's I don't know. I'm not very confident in her, so we'll see. I think she's a side. I think she should be the favorite. I just kind of think the line is starting to get a bit on the wide side here on the money line. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate any of the prop plays. I don't mind a shot at her KO. But yeah, that's going to do it for tonight. Next week, we have, what is that, UFC 264? 262. We got UFC 262. Big shout out.
Really ready for Connor.
Dude, I know.
Yep.
We'll talk about Connor. We'll talk about Connor another time. There's not enough words to be said. Then we got another hour to talk about Connor.
I'm going to do the I'll pop into that episode from Vegas.
Yeah. Are you going? Oh, you're going.
You got to be in Vegas?
Yeah, I'm going to Vegas for Connor Boyle.
Andrew, what do you think about a PFL? I'll text you about it separately. A PFL trip in June?
Where is it?
Atlantic City?
Atlantic City.
They have fans?
Yeah, 500, I think.
Be open in 2 weeks.
Oh, dude, let's go. 100% down.
Yeah. All right, nice.
100%.
So
make a weekend out of it.
Atlantic City.
But yeah, so that's going to wrap it. We got Quinn. Big thanks for coming back here. Orthodox 1993. We'll have him back soon. And Andrew, you want to plug your stuff? I know you sell picks, so.
My Twitter is at Bets and Picks MMA. And I have a Patreon, which is in the bio there. So yeah, if you want to hear some more fun MMA hot takes, give me a follow. But thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Good talking to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And as usual, I'm John Stargarian. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox. And yeah, guys, if you like the show, please drop a like and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. It helps us out. We're going to keep doing it either way. But yeah, thanks for coming out, everybody. We'll see you next week. And thanks, Quinn and Andrew. We really appreciate it.
See you guys later.